Do you need the little tag back?
All right, guys. Sorry for being late, but we want to welcome you to Table Talk with Pastor Lynne and friends. Listen, we have a special edition today. We decided we wanted to cook you dinner. So we decided we was going to make us some chicken fajitas, and we want you to join us as we make this meal and as we come together to break bread. Again, I am Pastor Lynne, and I want you to make yourself comfortable. We want to hear from you. We want you to talk to us, communicate with us. Let us know what's on your mind, right? Get into the conversation. So if you're viewing from YouTube, we want you to press that like button. We want you to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you can know when we're coming live, and share. If you're viewing from Facebook, we want you to like and we want you to share. But most of all, guys, we want to hear from you. This is not a discussion without you. So again, I am Pastor Lynne,
Joelle,
April,
Monique.
Hi, I'm Mary. Everybody's ready. Everybody's cooking, y'all. It smells wonderful in this kitchen right now. Listen, we're going to pull from our discussion bowl. And as we pull from our discussion bowl, we're going to tell you what our topic of the day is.
It is racial injustices.
Whoa.
Deep one.
Racial injustice.
Can we come back to that one? Okay. Wow.
Okay. All right. So we are going to be talking about racial injustice, guys, and we really want to hear from you. We want to know what is on your mind as we begin to talk about racial injustices. I think injustice, period.
Yes.
It is a big thing right now. So as we cook, we just want to hear from you. We want to talk with you. We want to conversate with you. And we're going to conversate with each other. Look, y'all stay with us because we're going to be cooking. And I'm telling you, it smells amazing in this kitchen right now. So who wants to start us off?
I think you're going to have to turn it.
Are you guys trying to make me have to be the one to do it?
Yeah, you're going to start this one.
Ask a question. Ask me a question. That might help me get started.
Ask you a question?
Well, because it's so
It's so broad.
it's so broad, and there's so much, unfortunately, of it.
Yeah.
Where do you start? Do you start with how it makes you feel? Do you start with awareness? You know?
Wow.
How aware are we
That's
of how deep it really is and how it affects every single one of us? And for those who think that it does not, you're blind to it.
Yeah,
That's good. That's good. So how does it affect each and every one of us? Let's talk about that. Is racial injustice, does it really just affect one race?
No.
Or does it affect all of us?
There's fear. As a Black mother, there's a lot of fear. As a Black woman, period, knowing that we're driving down the street, not doing anything, minding our business, and knowing that I'm being profiled. What does that say to me? Because I have a decent car, I must be up to something. That's hurtful. That's very hurtful. Worrying about our children.
Yes.
So it's a lot of things.
I often worry every time I hear a siren. I always pray, Lord, please don't let it be one of mine.
Yeah.
Not just my children I gave birth to, but even the children that I've adopted along the way, and nieces and nephews, especially the men in our family, are just the men who are connected to us. I'm constantly worried about their safety.
Right.
Are they going to be safe? And you hear not the fire department, but I hear like the sirens going, and the first thing that comes to my mind, my heart drops.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, Lord, please don't let it be one of mine, please, Lord. And I think that's sad for anybody to have to to not be able to just live life without having to worry about those things. If you can hear us, please let us know. Give us some likes, thumbs up, so that we know that we are talking loud enough for you to hear.
And ask us some questions. This is a deep,
Please.
broad subject. Do you have any insight on it?
I'm
And
gonna
experience too.
I'm gonna even say that we need to be concerned with the police as well. Just because it's a police officer does not mean that he is a bad police officer. And you know, the truth is, for me, the minute I see the uniform, I tense up. So shame on me, but that's where I'm at. You know, and it isn't even just police.
Well, my fear is having a young black son out there because he's had a few experiences in our area on the road with Elko PD. And so,
She probably know.
Yes,
yeah,
Oh, bro, you ain't hiding. So what we're cutting up right now, we're cutting up some bell peppers. So we want y'all to smell that aroma as Mary is talking. Can y'all smell it? Y'all, I'm hungry right now.
so if I start crying, it's an onion.
I do have
Yes,
to
so
say-
go ahead.
Go ahead, Mary.
What I would say is that fear, I don't think that fear is ever gonna leave me. And I know that, you know, we should not live in fear, but unfortunately, that's the direction society has pushed us. You know, the things that are going on these days, that's the direction we've been pushed in. You know, it's not just fear for our young black men, it's fear for everyone.
That's true. That's true. What were you gonna say, Jerome?
I was gonna comment that having a biracial son and daughter, my son has had some experiences in the neighborhood that he grew up in, and he's been confronted, and I've had to explain to him that you're gonna have experiences, and you just have to have a good attitude and do your best, but it's unfortunate. I've had to tell him if he's been upset, that it's just sad that this is the way society is right now.
It is hard. I always, and I have, much like you, Joelle, I have grandchildren who are Hispanic and Black. And I worry about it on both ends, right? Because both nationalities are targeted. And so I worry about them all the time because you just don't know what to expect.
But you know, it is so. All of us have our blended families.
Yeah.
My daughter-in-law is white, and the looks that she gets from being with my nephew. So it's all over, you know. It's all over. And I think it's up to us to find a way to say no. This is unacceptable.
Enough is enough.
Yeah, and we have to also be held accountable for our own, what's the word? Prejudice. Whether it be against a color, religion, or whatever, you know. Let's not just judge the individual until we get to know them. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, we do have our own individual, what I want to say, prejudices,
Yes.
which is sad, but I think they're learned behaviors.
Yeah.
I think they're things that we've learned because it's something that we've experienced. You all right over there? It's smelling good though, girl. It is smelling good. It's smelling amazing. But it's just a hard thing to deal with when you live in a world and you feel like you have to fight the fit, and no matter how hard you fight, you just never fit in. And it's
Yeah.
sad because, you know, especially when you know that how much you contributed and just, you know, people in general
Yeah.
from our culture has contributed, and yet we feel very isolated and separated. I feel like sometimes we're on an island away from everybody else, right? Like we're trying to just kind of paddle our way and we can't find an island to sit on. Because one of the things I realize is it's not just Caucasians that don't like us. It's like everybody
Right.
Don't like that.
has an issue with people of color, and it's amazing to me, but it's the truth. But I think
Yeah.
let's talk about though, what are some of the ways that we individually can begin to change that narrative? Now, understanding we can't change the world,
Right.
but we can begin to change the narrative around us. How can we do that?
That's a tough.
Well, having these conversations is one way.
Good start,
That's
yes.
a good start.
Yes.
Being more mindful, and then when you do see someone, you know, don't think
Don't
different.
assume.
Don't assume. There you go. It's, you know, it really is a hard one to answer because it's just so big.
It is
It's
big.
so big, and it's been so big for such a long time, which
I,
is unfortunate. Like, you know, how do you not progress?
we were at a hotel and it was breakfast time. And I went downstairs and there was a guy there that was straight tattooed up. And my first thing was like, uh-oh. Do you know that man ended up being the nicest person? We just sat there and conversated. So I had to say shame on me for passing judgment.
Yeah, but it's so hard not to.
It was fear.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
and it's also, it's what we see in the media, right? It's so talked about. It's everywhere, and
I
we
agree.
have struggled so much with it in the last couple of years. I think it has just put more fear
Yeah.
into all of us.
And I have to say that the media has to do better as well.
Yeah,
They do.
I
Yes.
agree.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
There are many times the media does not tell the color of the individual if they're white. But let them be black.
yeah.
I think the media will have to change when we stop entertaining the media.
Right.
And I
Good
think
point.
we
Yeah,
give them a lot of fuel. you know?
More.
We do, because we're just glutton for confusion, and we are just in such a narcissistic country, and there's so much hate. It's almost as if we crave it, you know?
Mhm.
So when the news comes on, we're craving for more. Well, give me more, instead of saying, no, we're gonna hold you accountable for what you put out there. But we're also gonna be accountable too, to make sure that we're doing our part. And I think as we talk about moving, how do we change the narrative individually? And how do we change the narrative corporately? I think it starts individually. Us
Yeah.
stepping up and taking our rightful positions. That means you might have to do some protesting. You know, you might have to stand up, and when it's the odds are against that person and even against you at that moment, you may have to be the one to stand up. I think in order for us to change the narrative, we have to change our stance as well. And I don't think we're good at that. I think we struggle on that portion.
Yeah.
We have to take ownership
Mhm.
of our part, and we don't do that a lot.
Mhm.
It is not all on us, but we are accountable for some things, and we have to take ownership for our own prejudice.
Yeah, and I just want to make clear to you, we don't have to justify or take ownership of what other people's actions,
Right.
but we do need to take ownership of how we deal with it, how we're responding. So I hear a lot of people complaining but they're not stepping up to do anything, right? So when it's an opportunity to say, we're gonna try and change this narrative, what they do is run the other way. Because it's
Right.
it's easier to ignore it and go the other way than it is to actually step up and do something about it.
Well, and I think there's a little bit of fear there too. You know, there's fear in if I do step up and say something, or if I get involved, what, you know, is there some consequences there? You know, what, so many people just walk away.
I think there's definitely some consequences. What are you saying, Miss Mary? Because you back here cooking up this food. This food is not so good.
Smells so good.
It is smelling so good right
I
now.
know, I'm definitely hungry. Maybe that's why I can't think. Not as much is coming out.
My just coming up, you know, I'm always using like metaphors to really talk about how we can see things differently. And as we're cooking, I'm looking at all these different colored bell peppers and how they all have different flavors. Like some are sweet, some are sour, some have a tangy, sweet taste. But when you bring all of those differences together, right?
Look what it
Look what it creates.
Yes.
They stand alone. They're strong alone, right? They have their own individual strength alone. But when you bring them all together, how much more pleasant is it to eat them? Like, I can't wait because I'm smelling them all together right now, and I'm like, we need to eat. Okay.
But that's just like us. Look at each of us.
Yeah.
We're all different in our color and in our backgrounds, but we each have something to bring to the table.
Yes.
We are each other's village, and we
Yeah.
stand strong in it.
Not just to each other, but to our kids.
Right.
Yeah.
We've all been there for each other's kids. You guys have been there for my kids.
Yes.
And how do you explain this to little kids? How do you explain this to little kids that they have to be careful because of the color of their skin? How did you guys deal with that? I know for me, you know, I did experience some of it because my kids are half Hispanic, you know, and so it was my son that, and he's a big guy, you know, he's 6'1", he's really a big old teddy bear, but he's been pulled over many times for no reason, just because of the way he was.
It's just about communication too and talking to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telling them.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to do is communicate with
But
your
when they're
kids and
so
tell them.
young, that is so
It's
sad
hard, yeah.
to have to do that when they're 4 or 5 years old.
Unfortunately, it's a reality for us.
It is.
We have to
It
have
is. You have
that
to
talk
start early.
with our children very, very early.
I don't know if you guys saw the little video on Facebook sometime back. Little girls playing in her car. I think it was I want to say it was a little police car. I can't remember. And an officer comes up, and I think he may have said something like, "Can I play with you?" something or something, and she just takes off running. It's the popo or something.
Oh,
It was
God.
putting a laugh to something that is so stressful, you know.
Right.
And I may have said it wrong, but you got the gist of it.
Yeah.
But it is an unfortunate thing that we have to do. It is scary. Our children want to go out to clubs, and not only do we have to worry about the police, but we got to just worry about them coming home from being shot.
Right.
You know, so there's just so much going on. The fear is real.
It is real. It's funny because I was online the other day and I was so overwhelmed with everything that's going on in our world. And someone did a video and it had different clips of Karens.
Oh,
And,
yes.
It broke my heart. It broke my
Yes.
heart because I'm like, wow, this gentleman was, the one that really got me was the gentleman, it's where he worked out every day. And he was working out and the lady said that he tried to attack her son. He said hello to her son. And so when she called the police and said, this black man is trying to attack my son, and he's got the video, and he's like, no, I'm not doing anything. Y'all see who I'm not doing anything. I said, hi. But now there's like 20 police there.
And they come deep
and-
with something
and-
like that.
And I'm just like, this is insane.
It is.
This is
It's
insane
unfair.
that you have to be so careful because not only are we policed by the police, but we're policed by a group of white people who don't think we belong here.
Mhm.
And that's just, not even just white people.
Yeah.
I've even had, I've seen Asians do it. I've seen
Our
like
experience.
Latinos. Which
Ross.
one?
Ross.
Oh God.
Where
So
were we?
Another
we went to,
Another
we
rock.
were
No, really?
in
Milpitas?
Milpitas.
Is it Milpitas?
We went to Milpitas. We
Something
decided we were
around
gonna
there.
get away for a one, and then we ended up going to Gilroy.
Okay.
And
Garlic
Mm.
festival.
we went to a Ross that
In
was over
Gilroy.
there in Gilroy.
Okay.
And if you know me and Mo, you know we like to shop. So we will oftentimes go to the store and put about 50 purses in our bag, just to walk out with 10. But we need to wade through and see which ones we want, right? And so she put like 4 in her basket. I think I had maybe 5 or 6 in my basket. And the security was following us. And not only did he follow us, but he went and alerted the security who was watching from the cameras.
Is he white?
And so he was Asian. He was Asian. And so I kept saying, Mo, he's following us. And she's like, yeah, I know. Because every time we turn, he's there.
Mhm.
And so afterwards we went, we ended up buying the stuff that we had in our basket. I think we may have not have bought a couple of the purses. She went over and she asked him,
Why are you following us?
Okay.
And he says, something. And I said, no. Why are you following us? And he said, it's procedure.
Wow.
now I want y'all to know if you ever heard of this procedure
This
at
is
Ross,
Ross.
okay? This is Ross, okay? What was the
A
procedure?
discount store.
Okay.
A discount store, okay? Where everything is $5.99,
Man, you talking about, man. I was mad. She was fired up.
I was hot. I couldn't believe it because he said the procedure was if you had more than 4 purses in your basket,
Yes.
that the procedure was they had to let the security people know so they could watch us.
Wow.
I said, so had it been a white person that walked in here and put 4 of them in their baskets, would you have followed them? He said, oh, it's procedure. Now he's stumbling. So I called corporate and I asked corporate what their procedures were. And he said they have no such procedure to where if you have more than 4 things in your basket, that they have to alert the head security.
And keep in mind, if you know us, when we step out of town, we're stepping. So we didn't look like something off the street, okay? I'm just gonna keep it real.
As a matter of fact,
So you're dressed
as a
to the
matter of
nines.
fact,
Okay, yes.
we're dressed to the nines, and we both had designer purses that we bought from the original designer. Yeah, okay.
So that's how
And-
you know it is all color of
It
your
is, it
skin.
is.
When you give that description, the only thing that caught his attention is the color of.
Now let me say this, we went to somewhere else to get something to eat. By this time, we're both still pissed. I'm real pissed with it, whatever. And we walk in and we're looking at the menu and this man keeps staring. I said, you know what, I'm about tired of these staring, okay?
Gotcha.
I said, I'm about tired of it. Well, I guess he heard me and he begins to talk to me. Why was he the nicest person? So, checked. He got me, yeah.
He was looking, well, she was looking pretty fly that day, so I can imagine, I understand why he was looking at her. He couldn't take his eyes off her. I understand.
Chicken. Do we need to
But-
on the chicken?
The sad thing is that we have to live out this narrative
Yes.
every day. Like, it's not just a one and done for us. It's a all the time. We're constantly having to watch ourselves. When I'm driving, I don't know about you ladies, I'm scared to death to drive at night by myself.
Yeah.
I will not be out by myself.
I don't want to stop.
I definitely don't want to stop.
Yeah.
And it's really
Definitely don't.
sad. So I have a question for you ladies and anyone listening out there. What do you do? What would be your reaction if your 8-year-old child comes home and sits on a couch and you're noticing something is wrong with that child? And you say, okay, why are you crying? What's going on? what do you do when your child says, I got in a fight and I hit this boy in the face with a basketball because he called me a name. I didn't know what it was, but it sounded bad. He called him the N-word. Now, those are things that these young kids learn from their parents.
That comes from
So after having a meeting, requesting a meeting with the principal, I turned to the parents. I said, let me tell you something. If you feel that this is right, if this is your teaching, I will let you know that my son has my permission to protect himself against your child if he comes at them. We don't teach that in my house.
Yeah.
We don't teach racism in my house. So you as a parent, it's your responsibility. Your child is learning it from you and bringing it to school. So we talked about, what do we tell our children?
Yeah.
I mean, I really had to step back because immediately I started crying.
Yeah. And you're
You have this
shocked,
8-year-old
too.
child
Yeah.
on the couch crying because he knew he was called a bad name, but he never heard the name. He had never heard it
It
because we
starts
don't
even
use it.
younger than that. though.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It
I
starts even
remember
younger.
the statement that man made about Moniece. About her. I think I was ready to hit everything. And y'all, I'm not really violent, okay? I'm not really violent. But when it comes to these babies, like, they shouldn't have to deal with this. And I know we did as kids. I know we did. But here it is. Like, we're
He said, cute kid, wrong color. Now, mind you,
I don't even understand.
she's in a car seat. She's dressed in pink and white stripes with a pink and white and blue bow in her hair.
Oh.
So when he said that, I was an older gentleman. He said it, and I had my limit. I set my baby on the table, and I said, "Excuse me." He said, "Yeah, little boy should be in blue."
Any color boy?
But he was referring to her outfit, her colors, not her skin. But
Oh, you
So-
did.
but what
Oh,
happened
gotcha.
was there were so many people kept saying, "She's so light, she's cute." That's not a compliment.
No,
Oh,
it
her
isn't.
dad must be
No.
white. No, we come in all shades.
So, you know,
I'm talking about the one who says she wasn't your kid. That's the one that, because she's
Oh.
light skinned and her mom's dark.
That one.
She said that Mo wasn't her kid. Now, often understand that we'd be
they don't know
together
your mom.
and they would think my children were her kids and her daughter was mine.
I think that happens a lot for women.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Happened with me with my kids.
Yeah, that happens with me.
My wife's just darker complected.
Yes,
Destiny's
he
lighter.
is. Yes.
Destiny got called back in school and she was in tears and I had to go down to the school. So I'm sure a lot of parents, like myself and everybody that have biracial children, they experience it. And how do you tell your kid, okay, unfortunately, they didn't learn the right things that should have been taught at home. And I'm trying to explain it to Destiny when she was little. My daughter, it was hard.
It is hard.
And then what are the
You know,
schools doing? When the schools know this is going on,
Had
You
the
know,
same thing, parent meeting.
if you're a
talk to the
parent, then
Yeah.
exactly.
They're
'Cause, you
scared.
know-
Well, and most of them are not gonna buck the system because they depend on the financial support
Mhm.
from these parents. So they're not gonna buck the system. They're only gonna do enough. But when we have to explain to our children that, one little girl asked us in our summer program, you probably remember this. And she said, well, how come when I see the police, I have to put my hands up?
Oh,
And she's like 6 years old, and I'm thinking, I don't want to tell nobody's kid this, right? Because
Yeah.
she's not mine. But obviously, they have been teaching her because of the community they live in that when you see the police, put your hands up. Don't look them in the eye. And here we are teaching them look people in the eye. Don't be afraid to let people see the color of your eyes. But now we have to teach them, but don't look the police in their eye. It's crazy how we have to go through the extra
Right.
to make sure that our children are safe and to make sure they come home. My grandson, I fight with him all the time. Like, I know you're grown and I know you think you know more than grandma, right? I get it. Because I knew more than your great-great-grandmother, right? So I get it. Howsoever, you really need to be careful when you're out there.
Yeah.
Especially those of us who brought our children up in a white community.
Right.
Yes.
So I got a couple comments. One, love doesn't know color.
Right.
And if we would just spend more time with our children at a young age, just teaching them to love and love everyone, rather than teaching them that they need to protect themselves, that they need to second guess, that they need to be cautious. That should not be what we were teaching our young children. And that, I think, needs to be the number one change in houses.
Yes.
But this comment is probably going to be a harsh one. But I know this for a fact. Part of the problem is that white people don't see it the way that we do. And I know I'm white, but I'm going to say that anyways because I've had many conversations with coworkers and friends, and what they believe is, why can't they just get over it? Right? Like and I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
And that even angers me because it just is so, you're just so blind to
Insensitive.
what is happening out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that is part of the problem. Is racism was a long time ago, right? Like they need to get over what's happening. They got a chip on their shoulder, all of those things. I don't know how you change that, but that is definitely what is the thought out there with many. And not all, because I will never say all with anything. I can never say
agree
all
with
with
that.
anything.
I agree with that.
But that is, I just think that's a real tough one.
I agree because they have, in order for them to see it, that means they have to be held accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
That's really true.
And we would love to hear from you
It would
all.
be admitting it.
Yes.
It would be admitting their problem. What's wrong with them?
It's
It would
a
be
tough
admitting
topic.
it. Yeah.
It is a tough topic.
Because it's always easier to point at somebody else than take responsibility for your part in it.
And I think you would have to wake up and see that it has not gone anywhere. So
It's actually
the
more
fact
surface
that you
level.
would have to make a
You have to
statement like
accept
that
Yeah.
is an indication that it has not gone anywhere. It's still very much alive, and or people wouldn't still be hurting. And so
Yeah.
you can't. So I've had statements like that made. Why can't you guys just get over it? It happened a long time ago,
Yeah.
or this is the one that gets me. We didn't do it to you. That was our ancestors, and why should we have to be held accountable because you're still doing the same thing?
Right.
You're
It's
still
done differently.
it hasn't changed. You're still
Yeah.
doing the same thing. When I buy a house, I'm treated differently than when you buy a house. When I'm trying to sell a house, I'm treated differently than when you tried to sell a house. So we tried to sell a house, we had to take down every black article that we had, artifacts in our house that we had. Pictures of me and my family, everything, we had to take it down. Why? Because racism still exists. And
That's right.
so whether, people want to, I would take that foil off. Whether people want to accept it or not, it is very much alive. What do you think?
Because you don't experience it, to you it doesn't exist. But walk a day in our shoes, and then let's have the discussion. That's point blank.
I don't know if they can handle it anymore.
Right.
Listen, guys, what do you think? We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this subject of racism? I know we've been talking a lot as we've been racial injustice. What is your thought process
Or
on it? What is your question that you may have, or your statement? You may have something to educate us. We want to hear from you because it is not just a topic that we bring up to bring confusion, but how do we work through this together so we can start being the change? We want to see the change, and we want to invite you also into being that change. So talk to us, tell us, how can we begin to make a change? Y'all, that food smells. Can y'all smell that food? Look, we're trying to throw some of this aroma to you. Can y'all smell it? It smells so good. Shall we cut it?
Yes, the clear threw me off. Here, I'm gonna.
Here are some clean nuts that I just washed.
You're about to cut the chicken.
Woohoo!
I'm not going to Louisiana.
So this is
Chicken.
So you want to take it off? It's really hot though. So to take it off and put it up there. And
Come on, guys. We want to hear from you. Your input,
is
your
this
questions.
subject too deep for everyone?
It's real.
Is it? Yeah.
It's real. It's what's
It's
going
hard.
on.
It's hard.
It is difficult, but it is reality. So let us hear from you.
Set it back right. One thing about chicken I like that they don't have a lot of fatty stuff afterwards. What about the tortillas? How do you want to use tortillas? Mo, you want to put some cheese in a bowl?
Come on, y'all, talk to us.
We want to hear from you.
Talk to me. What's that song? Can I hear it?
Oh my God. Oh
Come
my
and
God.
talk to me.
Come and
Come on,
talk to
y'all.
me. Come on now.
We know this is
You
not
know,
a
we
popular
didn't-
subject.
Yeah, in my house we didn't talk about colored skin. We didn't talk about racism. We didn't talk. It just wasn't allowed. It wasn't an issue. Yeah, and I, our friends were every color imaginable, and it was just never an issue. Until I was 13, I was in the Bay Area, so always very diverse. And then my mama said she needed to get out of the BayArea, and she moves me to Elk Grove. Well, this was back in the 80s because I'm
wow.
old. They had
You're
one,
old.
they had one stop sign, and I thought that my mom lost her mind. Like, where am I? Like this is a strange place for me. And so the first day of school, so 8th grade, right? That is a hard year.
That is a hard year.
13, junior high.
In the
I think
Bay.
most of us could say we hate. No, she took me out of the Bay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she
Okay.
took me out of the Bay and brought me to Oakland.
Oh,
One stop sign.
what's that? Couch.
So my first day of school, I'm standing there. I don't know anybody. I'm standing there. I'm waiting for the bell to ring because I know I have to go to the office because I'm new. I got to get my schedule, all that good stuff. So I'm just standing there. And I hear a bunch of kids next to me. And they're like, oh, who's that spick? Who's that Mexican? Who is she? What is she doing? And don't you know, of course they weren't talking about me. I started looking around. I did. I started looking around like, who are you talking about? Because I don't even see any Mexicans around here. I don't see all blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm the only one. And realized they were talking about me. They were talking about me, and that was my first experience.
How does that feel?
It felt terrible. It felt yucky. It felt like here I am at this new school in this new place. This is my first day. I'm not going to fit in. Nobody's going to like me. I'm not going to have any friends. It was just a really horrible feeling. And what was even more shocking about it is I'm not Mexican. So
Well, your signs
I'm not that.
You really don't fit the profile of my person. You really
Right?
don't
I
fit.
was like,
When I told my kids that you were white, I was like, no, she's not. I was like, she really is.
yeah, I really am. Yeah, but it was just like, wow, this is just shocking. This happens, and how How terrible.
Did it get better?
It got better not until I was probably a sophomore, but that's because they started building in Elk Grove. And when they started
So you were a
building,
sophomore.
in high school. Yeah, it didn't get better. They started building and, South Back started kind of moving into Elk Grove and they did boundaries and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, there was a handful
Mhm.
of Blacks and Mexicans that were there. Not in junior high where I was, they were at the high school, but they grew up there. So they, so they went to school with these kids for such a long time that they had already fit in.
Okay.
But only a handful. I could
Okay.
probably count
Wow.
all of them. And I remember I was so shocked too when in high school we got a new kid, a friend that the mom wanted to get him out of Oak Park and move him to Elk Grove with the auntie to try to keep him out of trouble.
Wow.
And so, we became, friends, and it was the funniest thing because I told him, I'm not going to say his name, but I told him, I said, these girls, you would think that they had never seen a Black person before because he was so popular. He was so popular. It blew me away. It was just the weirdest thing. That was his experience the first day of school.
It wasn't yours.
Experience.
But here's the thing, let him have done something wrong,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That is so true.
That's sad.
I'm surprised nobody has questions about this, just because this is
Or
such
comments,
a
or-
this is such
I
a
think
big
it's a
topic.
heavy,
Maybe that's
heavy,
why.
heavy topic. The one thing I would say too, is when we talk about color, we don't want people not to see our color, because if you don't see our color, then that means you don't see us, and we do exist. But being able to see our color and still love us, like, I don't want you to dismiss that I'm Black. I want you to love my Blackness, right? I want you to love my
But more
nappy,
importantly,
curly hair, right?
you
Who
are.
I am.
Yeah,
as a
because
Black-
not all
yeah.
Black people are the same.
Not all Black people,
Not all.
absolutely. So I think, I want you to see color when you see me, because it means you see me.
Mhm.
And if you see me, then you can get to understand who I am. And if you can understand who I am, then you can open yourself up
Yeah.
to begin to have some type of relationship or conversation with me. But if you can't see me, you will never understand me. You'll never even get the opportunity to understand me. And I think a lot of Black people, we struggle with hearing people say they don't see color, because we're
I've said that
saying,
before, yeah.
oh my God, so you're saying you don't see me? Because I want you to see me, because I'm here, I exist, and I don't want you to ignore that we're here. We just want you to love us the way you want us to love you, respect us the way you want us to respect you.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is that I hear what you're saying, but I would never say, I want you to see me as white. I want you to see me as that my color.
As a person.
As a person,
As a
I
person.
wouldn't think to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I just want you to see me as my personality, how I am, how I think, or how I do things. So it's definitely a different, perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's a different perspective because we've been,
It's our struggle.
it is our
Yeah.
struggle to be seen.
Yeah.
Yes, I just want to be seen, like,
Right, and-
can y'all just see me as a human being?
But I
right?
think that's also a good point, that that's also part of the problem, is because you don't know, right? You don't know what is okay, what is not okay, what is going to be sensitive to somebody and not somebody else. So those things, and there's not enough awareness. It even goes back to white people that say, get over it, or you have a chip on your shoulder. That was a long time ago. They clearly don't get it.
Yeah, but I think it takes someone like you, though, April. We often hear people say, those of you who are woke, right? Not awakened, but you're woke. Like, I am woke now, my eyes are wide open.
Yeah.
I see things clearly. And I think then once God begins to give you that type of vision, then it becomes a responsibility to make sure that others around you, when they're saying stuff like that, to be able to say, no, that statement is not true, right? Like, I'm woke enough to now hold you accountable for your statement, right, about how you see them and how your reality for right now. And it's a great responsibility on both parts. I think that we as Black people have a responsibility, and I think definitely white people have a responsibility. And so I think on both parts, it is being able to say, okay, God has awakened something in me to where now I am woke. I understand it. I see it differently. My perspective has changed. And if you can get a different perspective, you will always be able to help someone else along. And even if it's just one person, that one person is going to help somebody.
Yes.
It becomes, they say you reciprocate, right? And that reciprocity is a real thing. Like when you get it and you help somebody else get it, and then they help somebody else get it. And before we know it, we put a pretty big dent in racial injustice. And so I'm talking about racial injustice all the way to incarceration, all of that. Like everything has to, we only touch the piece of it.
That is
That is
like
so
that
much.
needs a lot of work.
Yes, there's so much that
And-
needs to be done.
Yeah, and a lot of gosh, the system just needs to be changed. Public defenders, that process needs to change.
We still
And
have
who
all
they
these old
are.
laws.
Oh, yeah.
And laws need to be changed.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And you know, I think too, when they put these new laws on the ballot, they need to be clear. Because I think sometimes people don't realize what they're actually voting for.
It may say this at the top, but if you read down a little
It's
bit.
tricky.
Yeah,
It's tricky.
yeah.
'Cause you might be
I
voting yes,
commend
and it's-
those
and it's
people.
Not, this means no.
It right.
Yeah.
It means the opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely got to pay attention to those things.
Yeah. You know what? If I don't understand it, I won't vote. Because then I feel like I gotta understand it. Because what if I'm voting wrong?
Sometimes it feels like you have to do the lesser of two evils.
Now
And that's
that-
not good.
That's not true. Yeah, but at least I understand both sides of it. But when I really don't understand what the law is and what they're really wanting to do, I don't want to make the wrong.
Because they take something that they think the people would like
Yeah.
and they put it with something that they know that they would not go for if it stood by
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Um, I really envy those groups that work with people in prison that have, like something's wrong with their case, or maybe they shouldn't have been there, or as long as that they've been there. Some of the time frames that people get, does not make sense.
Yes.
But the time and effort that they put in, but there's not enough of them for as many people as we have
Right,
incarcerated.
Right.
And I think that's where we get to participate, right? Is we can show up for these meetings. We can show up for these court cases. Like, there are so many ways that we as individual and collectively can show up and make a change. And it is when we show up and start saying we're no longer going to stand for this mass incarceration. We're no longer this injustice when it comes to sentencing white people over Black people. We're no longer going to stand up for those racial injustice. We're not going to stand up for racial injustice where you put little Mexican kids in a cage away from their parents. Like, there are so many injustices that we face here in America, which is supposed to be the land of opportunity, the land of freedom, right?
It's overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming.
There's so many areas that this subject hits.
Yeah,
So that needs.
yeah. And I think it's just us getting to a place of saying, we want change and we want to be a part of that change. I know we're nearing our time. I know y'all can smell this food because this food is smelling amazing right now. Thank you, Miss Mary. Woohoo! Mary cooking up. Hey. We want to thank April's mommy, our mommy, for making our aprons. Aren't these cute, guys? They're cute. Show them your aprons.
You can't see the bottom of April's mother.
They
There's
got
a
little
pocket,
ruffles on them.
and there's a big pocket.
Cute. Listen, guys, we are so happy that you decided to join us on today. And even when we have heavy conversations, what we want you to know is that we stand together as sisters. We come together and we want to find solutions as sisters to make this world a better place. I heard today, Mo and I were talking, I heard today where a gentleman was explaining what it means that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few, right? And he was saying, just a different perspective, he was saying that this is an opportunity for us not to ask God to send the laborers, but ask God to show us the opportunities where we can labor for his kingdom. So I say to you that as you go away with this conversation, begin to ask God, what is it that you can do to stand up to fight racial injustice, not just for the Black community, but for the Hispanic community, for the Middle Eastern community, even for the LGBTQ community, because we all matter to God. We all matter. Bottom line, God created us. We are his children. That means we are all equally important. So again, we thank you guys for joining us. I am Pastor Lynne. You are
April,
Monique,
Mary?
Joelle, and we thank you guys for joining us. Hey, listen, we're gonna make y'all a plate and y'all enjoy this food because I am telling you this food is amazing. Until next time, guys, peace. We hope you join us in 2 weeks. Well, we will be back for Table Talk with Pastor Lynne and friends. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.